Welcome back to another video. Today we'll be taking a look at these two SCSI drive enclosures I got from the free pile at VCF Midwest this year. Right, so if you don't know, the free pile at VCF Midwest is a pile of free stuff that changes frequently throughout the weekend. So if anybody has anything that they want to get rid of for free and thinks it might be of value to someone else, you can put it in the free pile, and chances are, if it's not a total piece of junk, somebody like me will take it. And chances are, if it's a piece of junk, somebody like Lane will take it. So we've got a couple of things that Lane grabbed as well that I'll be working with her on in a future video. I'd like to have her do a restoration of a more modern laptop that she took, so keep an eye out for that. But today I've got these two SCSI enclosures, and they were just sitting there in the free pile, and I thought, well, I can't pass that up, so I grabbed them both. Hopefully it wasn't too greedy of me. I guess I could have left one and taken one, but there's lots of stuff there. It's kind of just for everybody, so I grabbed them both. All right, let's take a look at what we have here. All right, so these are the two enclosures that we got. The top one is a PLI PL80 Turbo. It feels pretty light. It feels like there's a power supply in it and no hard drive, which totally fine. We've got lots of hard drives, but we'll have to take that apart and see what is inside. Oh, and on the back, both of these did come with a SCSI terminator, but yeah, we've got definitely a power supply, which may or may not work, fan, and the two SCSI connections. And then we have this guy. This is a CMS branded SCSI enclosure. Now this one's quite a bit heavier. I feel like this one probably does still have a drive in it, which I'm guessing doesn't work. We've got some probably SCSI ID selector dip switches that might be wired into whatever's in here. Another SCSI terminator, the SCSI connector, and again, we've got a power supply that may or may not work. We'll find out. So I think the first thing I want to do is just kind of get into these, see what's inside. So let's grab a screwdriver here, and we'll start with this PLI drive enclosure, which I'm just presuming is empty. So we got one screw on each side, and then I think the front slides out the front, like so. There we go. And with that off, we can see that there actually is a drive still in here. PLI branded Connor drive. Just standard SCSI. It looks like we have the SCSI ID selector here. Not a switch mode power supply. It's got a transformer, but it looks like it's in pretty good shape. Who knows if the drive works? We'll have to power it up and find out. Who knows if the power supply works? We'll have to power it up and find out. So this is an AM9 VD3C Connor drive. I don't know how big it is. For whatever reason, in early hard drive production, they didn't put the size of the hard drive on the hard drives, and I don't know why. I think that would be useful. So we could look it up and see what it is, but let's find out if it works first. All right, so let's put this back together, set it off to the side over here. And then we've got this guy. Looks like this one has a 5 1/4 drive in it based on the distance these screws are in. So let's go ahead and pop these 4 screws off the bottom here. I'll try to keep my screws separate so I know which goes to what. So we've got these rubber feet that are, well, they're not melty on the bottom where it touches the desk, but they've definitely been sliding around on this machine, or on this device, I guess. So we'll get this last screw out, and then I think this one slides out the back. I think. Oh, that just pops off. What are we missing? Does the cover need to come off first? And there's more screws under there? Oh no, it slides out the front as well. Okay. So, there we go. So inside this one we have a Seagate ST296N. So that's the model, and again, there's no size information on here anywhere, which is not surprising. Again, another transform power supply, not switch mode. And we've got our SCSI ID selector. It looks like it's plugged into it. And yeah, it looks very clean inside. Both of these are very clean inside. And, you know, they're not too bad on the outside either, I suppose. Alright, so let's set some of this stuff off to the side here. Alright, so I think the first thing I want to do is just like a little power test on both of them. So they're both currently switched to off. And like I said, stuff in the free pile tends to be stuff that's broken. If these had been functional, I imagine they would have ended up being sold or on eBay or something, but you never know. So let's flip it on and see what we got. Alright, well, the fan is running. The hard drive sounds like it's trying its hardest to start up, but it's not able to. Oh, and I smell burning electronics. Let's go ahead and switch that off. I don't know if that's coming from the hard drive or that's coming from the power supply. Not a good smell. And we've got something going on in this box as well. I don't know what it's doing there, but it looks like that might be... Yeah, I don't know what would be in there. I don't know why we're getting a smell out of this one. Alright, let's try the other one. No surprise there that that one does not work. That's a really tight connection. Let's plug this one in. If this one does work, I imagine it's going to be super loud. Let's see what we got. We got the fan going, hard drive spinning up. It is quite loud, not as loud as I'd imagined. It's not making great sounds, but it sounds like it might have actually spun up correctly, and this drive might actually work. That should be pretty cool if it did. I don't know that I've got any other 5 1/4 SCSI drives. Let's go ahead and shut it off. I don't think that was a good sound. It's got quite a tight fit as well. Alright, so let me just take a sniff of this one. And it definitely smells like the burning came from the drive itself. I get nothing by the power supply here. But yeah, over here, I do smell burning electronics, so it wasn't spinning up. I'm guessing something probably is stuck in it. We could give it a whack, some percussive maintenance, and see if that does anything. Now that I know it's not the power supply, I'm not as worried. Let's hear if it tries to start up again. No, nothing. I'll give it a little bit of a tap. Sometimes that can free up stuck heads, but I think it's the motor that spins the drive that's stuck. Alright. So let's go ahead and pop this drive out. If we can get these to turn. Got 1, 2, 3, 4 screws that are holding it in. Alright, and that's just going to fall out. So we should be able to, ideally, pop it off. So, on the bottom of this one we have, this is what's controlling the SCSI ID select. This is controlling the LED for the front. And so we've got red, yellow, and white in that order. Let's just pop this drive out. There's also a ground connected to it here on the side through one of these mounting pegs. Let's take those off. So we'll want to save these for sure. Alright, so this drive probably is just completely trashed. Yeah, I can smell faint burning. Let me just double check here. Yeah, nothing on this one, but there's some very faint burning coming from here somewhere. I don't see anything that looks like it burned up. So probably it was the motor that couldn't spin that was just burning away in there. Who knows? Alright, so we'll send this off to the recycler, unfortunately. I don't think there's much we can do with this neat old Connor drive, unfortunately, but we'll look at it, and I'll have it on video, and we'll know that it once existed. Alright, and in its place, I'm going to install this drive. This is another Connor drive. This one is the hard disk 40SC, Apple branded, not PLI branded. But it's a close enough fit that I think it's going to look good in there. Not that anyone's going to see it. So let's go ahead and reinstall our mounting pegs here. I'm seeing this one here gets the little grounding strap. Alright, so on this drive, it's got these pins here, E1, E2, E3, and E4. E4 is used to disable parity, so we don't want to put that one on. So we'll do E1, 2. It looks like these pins are a little bent out of shape. Probably from having stuff plugged into them in the past. There we go. That fits a little better. Alright, so that's our SCSI select. Alright, and then I'm pretty sure that based on this internet search I did, which you can see here, this one is for the LED. Alright, so let's plug SCSI back in, plug power back in. So we've got our SCSI ID plugged in, disk activity, mounts, the grounding strap. So that should be everything. So let's go ahead and get this reinstalled. Alright, 3 screws and the 4th screw. Cool. So let's just go ahead and power that up, see if it spins the drive. Yep, seems totally fine. So I think this one is good to go. Let's go ahead and get that cover back on. Line that up. Nice. And then we just got these 2 screws to install here. Alright, so now I suppose we should test these out in a machine, see if they actually can be detected. This one should be good, and this one is still unknown. So let me grab a machine and grab some SCSI cables, and we'll do a little bit of testing here. Alright, so I've got my Color Classic here, and I've got the bottom drive plugged into it, so let's go ahead and power the drive on. See the activity light flash, that's good. Alright, and let's switch the Color Classic on. and then start it up. So I don't know what any of the SCSI IDs are set to. So we'll have to see if it actually boots or if there's a SCSI conflict. Certainly possible that there is. And that's a fun artifact of the redraw going on there. Alright, so it looks like we've hit a conflict. Or we just have unbootable drives. Let me unplug the drive from the Color Classic first. As Adrian always says, test your testing equipment before you test with it. So let's make sure this Color Classic still boots. Trying to remember. I think I have a blue SCSI in it with multiple volumes. Okay, so it does boot. So that means we're in SCSI ID termination hell, which was a thing when SCSI was a thing. So I think that would indicate that the bottom drive here is set to SCSI ID 0 probably. And I see on the back of it there's a whole bunch of jumpers. I don't know which ones were the right ones. I didn't pay attention. So I'm just gonna randomly change a bunch of them, and that should get us somewhere. We'll go ahead and shut this down. So we'll change 1 and 2 to be off for each of these. Maybe I should set them all to be off and have 1 and 2 on. I don't know. Let's just experiment and see what we get. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Let's switch. Let me just unplug it here and I'll spin it around and show you. So move the big guy out of the way for a second. I don't know how I didn't notice this before, but on the back here, in between the two SCSI connectors, there's these 3 blocks of dip switches. And they each have 1 through 7. No, 1 through 6. And they were all set to on. So I don't know what that means. I would expect this to be binary. That's usually how these work. So I'm going to turn, I think, all of them off. Set them all to off. And then I'm just going to turn number 1 on in each one. And we'll see what that does. Plug everything back in then. We'll turn on the drive. Get the light flashing right away, which is great. So we're plugged into the drive and the Mac. Let's go ahead and turn the Mac on. Alright. So it's trying to boot up off of the external disk, which is running System 7.0. That's okay. That means everything's working fine with that drive. That's a known good drive. I had written on it that it was good in November of 2022 and that it was running System 7.0. So totally fine that it's not going to boot. No worries. It's a good drive. The power supply's working. That's an awesome free find. Love having the enclosures. So let's go ahead and switch the Mac off. We'll switch off this fixed drive on the bottom. And then let's go ahead and take a look at this guy before we power it on. So on the back of this one, we've got, again, a bunch of dip switches. Open would be down. And they're all set to... so 2, 4, 5, and 7 are set. So let's go ahead and unset them all, and we'll just set 1. I don't know what that actually is going to set. Like I said, I'm used to those kind of dip switches being binary, where there's just 3 of them, and then you can control 0 through 7 with the binary switches. All right, so let's plug this drive in. Give it some power. Let it spin up. Again, it's not making great sounds, but it sounds like it's spun up okay. We'll see. Alright, so it's up and running. Let's go ahead and turn the Mac on. Alright, I did hear it access before the Mac booted, so it seems like it's working enough where the Mac could talk to it. We'll see if it shows up. If not, hopefully I have some utilities on here to deal with SCSI drives. I don't know that I do. I just grabbed the first Mac that was closest to me. We'll see what we got. Of course, there's a chance, too, that it's already formatted in a System 6.7 format that it can just read. That would be nice. Yeah, my time and date's not set. That's okay. Alright, so I didn't hear it access it here, so it doesn't seem like it is formatted in a way that the Mac can recognize currently. Yeah, we'll just go with A for that. So let's see if we can see this drive with SCSI probe. I hear it accessing. And there it is. It's set to SCSI ID 4 right now, the ST296N. Let's see if we can mount it. A large volume connected to your computer cannot be used because a 6080, 040, or PowerPC CPU is required for volume sizes larger than 4 gigabytes. I don't think it's a 4 gigabyte drive. I don't know what it's getting there, so do we have any other tools on here we could format it with? I don't think I do. So we would need something like silver lining. Yeah, I don't have any tools on here. Alright, let me see what I can do. Alright, so I don't know if you can see that over here, but I just looked it up. The ST296N is 85 megabytes. So the Mac thinking it's 4 gigabytes or larger, definitely incorrect. It might be that the drive is having some issues, or it could be that it's just because it's in a format the Mac doesn't understand. Alright, so I'm out here on my Performance 600 now, and I'm running this drive setup here. I did have to change the SCSI ID because the CD-ROM drive in this machine is 4, so I put it to 6. I just turned switches 1 and 2 to on, and apparently that made it ID 6. Well, that's okay. So let's see if we can initialize it. Alright, so it has an additional unrecognized partition of Kevin's. I don't know. Let's see if we can save that somehow. I think Kevin's about to lose all of his data. So we did try to mount this before and didn't work. Well, let's try to mount it here, I guess, see what we got. Yeah, so again, it thinks that particular that particular partition is bigger than 4 gigabytes when it's not. So let's go ahead and initialize it. Yeah, that's fine. So we're gonna have one Mac OS partition with it initialized. Let's see if we can get through this without crashing or falling over. Now this is I think this is either a modified version of drive setup or this is a later version of drive setup. The original drive setup would only work with Apple branded hard drives that had the Apple ROMs, but you can get the hacked version from the Macintosh repository, or I think just the later version works as well. I don't quite remember, but I do know that the original one does not. So anyway, it says it initialized it. See if we can actually see it. Yeah, and there we go, 80 megabyte disk. So we'll quit out of drive setup. Let's grab a game. Bolo. Yeah, let's put Bolo on it. See if we can actually write to it. Yeah, seems like that's working just fine. So this is a very loud drive, but it's also very functional, which is cool. I've only got a couple of other 5.25 inch Seagate drives that still work. I've got a number of dead ones, or had a number of dead ones. I think I recycled most of them at this point, but to have a working one's really cool. I've got another one that's IDE format, the same kind of form factor, and it sounds like an airplane taking off. It's so loud, I can't even use it in anything. So this one's loud, but it's usable, and it should be better once we put the case back together. So let's go ahead and shut down the Performance 600, and let's go back to the Color Classic and see if we can play Bolo off of this drive. First things first, though, let's put it back together. So this should just slide in here. Doesn't look like it matters which way it goes. I don't see any stops either way. Alright, so I got that back on. And apologies, my water heater is just turned on, so it's a little loud in here. But let's put these 4 screws back in. I think the water heater is slightly louder than this drive, but not by much. They're pretty close to being on par, so it's going to get, I guess, twice as loud when I plug this in. Maybe they'll cancel each other out like some sort of white noise machine. Doubt it. Alright, so I got that all plugged in, or screwed back together. Let's plug it in. Fire it up. Let it spin up. Okay, the water heater is quite a bit louder than the drive, now that the case is back together. Alright, let's fire up the Color Classic. You know what's really helpful when you're trying to test the drive out? Plugging it into the computer. Let's shut down and let's just try this again. Let's pretend this didn't happen. Yeah, date, blah, 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 blah. Fine. Alright, now that we have the drive plugged in to the Color Classic, that should make it much easier for the machine to talk to it. So let's see if it pops up here. Okay, still not, but fret not. Let's pull up SCSI Probe. There it is, showing up as 6. So let's go ahead and try to mount it. Okay, so it still thinks it's big. So it's certainly possible this drive is having issues. It's also possible that it is only going to work on later OSs. I don't know what we're running on here. 753. No, I would expect it to work here. So it's possible that when we write the partition information and power it off, that it just loses that immediately. All right, so back to the Performance 600, and we're getting the same thing. So I think this drive definitely has probably some bad sectors right around where the partition table is stored. So we can initialize it again, but I think what's going to happen is as soon as we power it off or move it to another computer, it's going to lose that information. So it does know that it has a partition named Untitled, and that's the one we just made and put Bolo on, but it can't mount it because it thinks it's too big. So there's some corrupt data in there. We could try a custom setup maybe. Let's try 2 partitions. Let's make one really small and one using up the rest of the disk. So 10 megs and 71 megs. And we'll format them both as macOS standard. If the problem isn't where the partition table is written, having 2 might get around that. Or if it's the partition itself that's in a bad place, partition 2 might work. Let's just try it, see what we got. All right, so let's copy Bolo to both of these. So we'll copy it to the first partition, the 10 meg one, and then we'll copy it to the second partition, the 71 meg one as well. All right, so we should have Bolo now on both of these drives. Let's just try running it from here and seeing if it runs at all. I think it probably will. Yeah, it seems fine. Alright, so definitely can run it from the drive that we just created. Instead of running all the way back to the Color Classic, let's just go ahead and do a shutdown here. We'll wait for drive setup to exit. Alright, and then I'll turn off the drive as well. Let it spin all the way down. And still going, still going. Alright, it's off. So we'll power it back on. We'll wait for it to get up and running. Alright, and then we'll turn the Performance 600 back on. So again, I hear the Mac access it when it's looking for all the boot devices. It talks to it. It knows there's not a boot drive partition system folder on it, and it boots off SCSI 80, which in this case is a SCSI 2 SD. So we'll let it boot, and then we'll see if we can mount either of those partitions. My guess is that we will be unable to mount either of them. I think the drive is probably very close to being fully functional, but there's just some corruption on some of the sectors that are very important sectors dealing with the partition table. So I think, I guess, I don't know why I can make a partition, access it, and then as soon as I move it to the other computer, turn it off, turn it back on, then it doesn't work. Because you think it would, if it could mount it once, why can't it mount it again? Where's the corruption happening? It must be happening during the spin down or the spin up cycle, I guess. I don't know if it's spinning up and the heads are doing something weird. But yeah, they didn't auto mount, and that's not a good sign. So let's just take a look at drive setup again. And I suspect it's going to show that it's able to be initialized, but unable to mount, and it's going to complain about it being too big, even though it's not. Yeah, I hear it accessing it, so it's definitely scanning it for partitions. Yeah, not mounted, so if we click on it and do functions mount, yeah, it says we can't mount it. So this is more of like a, I mean, you've heard of ROMs, read-only memory. This is like a write-only disk. You can write to it as much as you want, but as soon as you turn off, you can't ever read back from it. So it's a write once, read never. Warn instead of worm. All right, well, it's too bad we couldn't get this drive fully functional, though the enclosure looks like it's in great shape, so I could put another drive in there. I was really hoping to be able to have a 5 1/4 drive that I could, actually use, even though it's only 85 megabytes. Would look really nice under like a Mac Plus. And it still will look nice under a Mac Plus, just not with the giant Seagate drive in it. So anyway, not bad for the free pile. We got 2 working enclosures, 1 barely working hard drive, and 1 dead hard drive. So that's kind of, I guess, what you expect from the free pile at VCF Midwest. Everything needs a little bit of TLC to get it back up and running. So not sure what I'm going to do with this guy yet. Maybe I'll put a blue SCSI in it. Maybe I'll put an actual drive in it. But it's always nice to have extra enclosures. So anyway, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and we will see you in the next video.
Hi guys! Make sure to like and subscribe and watch more of our videos later. Bye!